Hello guys and dolls, and welcome back to my channel. And for those of you who are new, how you doing? Okay guys, I'm having quite a day. Let me fix this camera. Again, real life behind me. I explained that. If you watch my videos, I explained my background already, but you know, I woke up wanting to do this video, so happy and cheery, and then I didn't like my hair, I didn't like my makeup. I just didn't like anything, and I said, you know what, no. I started going through the things that I am grateful for. I don't know if you noticed, but I have been losing the quarantine 1,000 pounds that I gained. I am now losing it, and I am so happy. That's one major thing I have to be grateful for. I was able to make my amazing coffee that I always make. Oh my god, so good. So many things that you, even right now through this period of time that we're going through, can be grateful for. And I said I'm not going to let anything stop me from making my videos and doing the things that I do regardless of what's going on. Without further delay, let's get into what this video is going to be about, because I've got lots of notes. Okay? This is about the reptilian presence on Earth. And I'm going to be talking and I'm going to be reading and, you know, kind of looking at my notes. So bear with me, you know how my videos are. In a nutshell, this information is coming from, I saw a video, again on UAMN TV. I'm putting this information together, the information I thought was most important. And in a nutshell, this is about a journalist who was kind of signaled out as far as trying to dig into what's really going on. What's behind all of this, what's behind the cure, what's behind these lockdowns, what's behind everything that's happening, all the things, all the weird things that people are seeing. It ties into all of that. And the information I found was, or heard, you know, was very interesting. It was new to me, made me think a lot more about the reptilians that are present and among us, and those reptilians that actually have power over this planet. And you know, I've never been so open about talking about this before, but I am, because for me that's the truth. I've seen, I've read and heard too much and put two and two together. It's very obvious that there is a reptilian presence on the planet. So let's begin. So 1 million people around the world are reported missing every year. Many are filed as protocol, quickly resolved. A worrying percentage of these are not even investigated. It's now becoming more and more apparent there's a disturbing nature to these disappearances. People disappear all the time, and no one even bothers to go looking for them. And again, all this information is coming from a journalist by the name of John, who was signaled out for some reason. He became very interested in knowing more about these disappearances and why people are disappearing, and is there something more to it, and is it connected to everything that's going on. So this is bits and pieces of what he was able to find out. And another thing about this information, it was given to him by a person that he cannot name, and he calls him X. And again, it was kind of a little hard to follow, but that was the gist of it. This is a journalist who actually lost his job for doing this and for looking into this. And he apparently met with this person by the name of X. And X said that not only are they behind it, they pretty much control everything. They are the source of it. They can pretty much manipulate and force us to do whatever they want. But it's not in their best interest to continue watching what's happening right now to everyone on the planet. So that's why they were leaking this information to him. Isn't that funny? Isn't that the most backhanded way to receive help from a supposed entity being that is 1,000 times more advanced than you or I? And he supposedly kind of shapeshifted in front of him, but I was reading between the lines when I saw the video. So let's continue. So reptilian taboo. Just because people within the alternative media is aware of the banking scam, political scam, engineered wars, it doesn't mean your mind is open to ultimately where all this is coming from. We all have a here and no further mentality. We all have a line that we draw. Reptiles are sometimes depicted as friendly, unless you're a little boy who loves toads or some type of zoologist. Pretty much reptiles are not liked. The leathery, scaly skin, the small, beady eyes, and the coldness of their natures does not resonate with any human being. The human perception has been so programmed with I can't, it cannot be, it's left very few with that sense of yes, it can. Everyone from knee-high to a grasshopper is told monsters aren't real, but they are. Monsters are very real. These entities, beings, want to keep hidden. They have infected human society, but want us to believe they are not real so they can continue to control without retaliation or question. We are programmed to a 5-sense reality, told nothing exists beyond that, which is a lie. We are not a 5-sense reality. We are consciousness, we are vibration, we are energy, hence the law of attraction. There cannot be law of attraction if we were destined to live and go by a 5-sense reality. That is the truth. We are energy and vibration, capable of creating with our minds. We were meant to communicate with multiple frequencies and dimensions. We should be able to live beyond 300 years in a human body. All of those things are hidden from us because of the reptilians controlling us from the unseen and beyond. We are conditioned to not see the reptilian beings around us, sightings, the fact that there are hybrids who lose control of their shifting and show their true nature to many people who primarily are gifted, some not so gifted. Some people are just able to see them. And they just show their true nature. Some don't really care who sees them or not. And they're coming out more and more because the more I look into this and the more stories I read, it's just more and more people are being able to see people shift, whether it's their eyes change or, they kind of blur, they pixelate. Yes, pixelate. We're not solid. We're only solid to each other. And unfortunately, you've got to wrap your brain around that science before you can allow yourself to kind of get comfortable with everything that I'm saying. So this covert agent X, according to a person by the name of X, since he is what we call a whistleblower, his name will remain X. So we're talking about X. Okay, so he pushed to look up a name, Dr. John Mack, about abduction. He was a psychiatrist at Harvard University, and he was very skeptical of the alien abduction phenomena until he began dealing with patients suffering from their experiences. He concluded that his patients' experiences were real. And that brings us to the abductee, Ellis Taylor. He is one of the people who was regularly taken. He would wake up with burns, shaved areas on his body, impressions on his body before they vanished. Many of these people are not traumatized, but confused mostly. Many say they don't feel like they belong here. They don't feel like they are part of the families they have. So basically these abductees, a lot of them, and this is what you never hear, I've never heard of this, ever. These abductees feel that they don't belong to this planet, to the families they were born into. And also that this planet Earth is horrifyingly brutal, and in a stone age that people kill each other for gain. Some of these people are being called a star child. So basically, some of these people experiencing visitations feel that these beings are family. Others are completely afraid and traumatized over the visits. So, in a nutshell, some abductees feel like this is their first human life, that they were brought to this planet, actually put into the family that they were born into, that their soul doesn't resonate with humanity. It resonates with a different being, not from this earth. I hope that's more clear. Okay, and of course others that are being abducted are they're just traumatized. They don't know what the hell is going on, and they are actually human beings from Earth who have only known Earth lives. Some people are actually relating or feeling that their souls were once in a reptilian, mantis, or feline forms, among others. And yes, people, without me having a better analogy, the Thundercats is real. Okay? The Thundercats it's the only thing I can think of, but to me it's the only comparison I can make. The Thundercats are real. And if you, I'm giving away my age here, but if you know what the Thundercats are, you know what I'm talking about. So those who fully relate or believe they're just misplaced visitors when they die will return to the ancestral homes. Others are hybrids, which are half human. So a lot of these abductees feel all their lives that once they pass on, they're going to go back to their ancestral home, wherever it is that they're from. Now, this is proof no one wants to hear, coming from beings as young, or human beings, I should say. So this is, again, let me start again. This is proof no one wants to hear, coming from human beings as young as 8 years old, stating that this particular 8-year-old states that when he was abducted and went into an alien craft, he was able to transform, I can't speak, he was able to transform into his mantid body. So this little 8-year-old kid that was getting help because of his trauma with this psychiatrist, when he was regressed and he started to remember all his abductions and his travels up in space, he will go into an alien craft and he was put back into his normal state, which was a mantid body. And he worked with other human beings as well as aliens. This is called soul transfer, and again, if you are a fan of my videos, you know what soul transfer is. This is what Queen Elizabeth in England has been doing, and that whole royalty around the world, not just the Queen of England, but royalty around the world. This is what they have been doing for ages, for eons, especially those in power, and those 1% that rule the world that are directly tying to the reptilians that control this planet. Now, James Bartley, he is another person who has experienced alien entity contact. He is now a researcher in California. Look him up if you want to hear a lot more about him. But James Bartley, I'll talk more about him later, but he's one. Simon Parker is also another person who is he has constant contact with aliens. Simon Parker says he is no longer afraid because it's been happening since he was a child. Most of these entities can enter a human's subconscious mind and appear as anything, but especially a form that would not terrify a person and allow them to get a message across. This is why Adolf Hitler acquired Dr. Mengele's services, to prevent soldiers' minds from being infiltrated, wiped, or memories pulled. So this is what started the whole thing. Then the demented, psychotic, despicable, decrepit Mengele went on his own tangent with his own. He was just left to his own devices with everything that he had learned when he was first invited to put whatever it is he had that he was capable of holding over people and controlling people. He used that, of course, in the Holocaust and everything else. Adolf wanted this. He wanted contact with what I am assuming were people or entities no longer on Earth. So they may have been getting Sarah's, the planetoid. Remember, I did a video on this. They may have at that time during World War II, when Hitler first, oh, and there's the door. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so I'm back, but I left off with Mengele and Hitler and the fact that I believe at that time they were either preparing Sarah's for everyone to go there. I know that Hitler never ended up going because supposedly he stayed on Earth, but Anyway, that's where that went. You know, Mengele was a psychotic psycho who went on to do his own thing, but that's where MK Ultra comes from. That's where mind control comes from. And if you also listen to my information about Arizona Wilder, Mengele was the one who actually did her mind control when he died. She started remembering. And that story is so interesting. Look her up. It's well worth listening to because it just solidifies everything that I've been saying in all my videos. So when when John questioned X about all the abductions, he had a lot of other questions. He wanted to know a lot of other things that, you know, just seemed logical for him to know. X said at the time, because the information I suppose had to be put out the appropriate channels approved by X, he said that it would have to be kept secret. He couldn't have John having a nervous breakdown because of what he said. X was also very adamant that he could put John down in a heartbeat, and anybody that he cared about, if he went out of his boundaries and decided to, you know, leak the information or tell anybody else about what he was learning from X. And X was also very specific about saying to him, not only to him, about the human race in general, that we don't know anything that they don't want us to know. That X poked and prodded him so that he, John, would further investigate and try to learn about these abductions and all these missing people and missing time and all the rest of it. It was something that they wanted to be known. And he basically stated that some of them are trying to help. And with that, I understood that X was not human. He's just a entity, a being, a reptilian hiding behind a human image. So let us go forward. Triggers. Many everyday ordinary people have seen and are seeing human beings shapeshift predominantly into reptilian form. David Icke was told by someone he was meeting for information exchange, who had been married to a Satanist who was the warden for Burnham Beaches in England, west of London. They are owned by the City of London. It's known for strange happenings in Satanism. This person told him she saw Ted Heath, former Prime Minister of Britain, do a satanic ritual at Burnham Beaches. She was walking her dog one night and saw lights. She walked towards them and saw Heath with others in the group. He shifted right before her eyes into a reptilian being and grew 2 feet. When he spoke, it was like listening through a tin can, sort of like a bad connection on an old phone line. No one in the group even batted an eyelash when he transformed. It was like normal to them. Another story told to David Icke was about an Air Force officer who had high military rank. On the Norm, he received phone calls and within 10 minutes had to leave with bag packed. His daughter, still very young but old enough not to need a babysitter, begged to be left alone at the house. So he agreed. On one of his trips, she was left by herself, and I'm not sure where her mom was, but maybe the mom wasn't in the picture, I don't know. So her father agreed. She said a reptilian appeared in the walk-in closet in her hallway, so tall he had to bend down to step out. He began to glide, not walk, glide towards her, so she ran into the bathroom, screaming. As she locked herself in, the reptilian started clawing at the bathroom door, and all her screaming alerted the officers outside. And as soon as they were in the house, the reptilian vanished. When her father returned, he saw the claw marks on the door and said that is why he never wanted her alone in the house. Which, does this not disturb you? That a military officer who has a daughter, apparently has a family, just nonchalantly, his whole fix to the situation is, oh yeah, well, we won't leave you in the house alone anymore. Does that not tell you anything? I mean, the coldness, if I would hope that I would get a bigger reaction than, okay, Julie, you will never be left alone, if I told a story like that to someone and all they said was, okay, we won't leave you alone anymore. Okay, so on to Peter Maxwell. He's the author of Operation Starseed. He's another abductee. Says he was home one evening listening to music on his couch. He lives in Australia. He started to get a ringing in his ears and felt like he was vibrating. It kept intensifying. Then there was a bright light all around him and he was taken to a cave. At this point in time, he was still writing his book, Operation Starseed. He saw 3 reptilians before him. One was about 5 feet, the others about 6'2". They communicated to him they wanted to ascend. He asked, why tell me? They wanted him to write it in his book, and they wanted humanity to know. So basically these beings, because of their background, because of what they're taught, because of their nature, which is cold, without remorse, without compassion, without empathy, that is their nature. They want to ascend, meaning that they're different from these draconians who are now in control of this planet. And it just warmed my heart to know that there are reptilian beings out there who are not all like the draconians, who would like to learn from us and who want us to know that they want to ascend along with us. Because, you know, when we pass and we die and these human shells are no longer something that we're locked into, that's pretty much our ascension. We are ascending into heaven, and or for me to Jesus, or you know, whatever it is you believe. But it just made me, I don't know, it made me realize that there's hope. There's hope. There's just hope. There's hope for them. There's hope for us. There's hope for us getting out of the situation. There's just hope. And if that doesn't give you hope, and that doesn't calm your mind and calm your spirit in knowing that some of these reptilians are not like, they're not all like the draconians, just, you know, hell-bent on domination, control, and having us as their food source, I mean, that gives me a lot of hope. What are all these flies doing here? Okay, so moving forward, James Bartley. I said I would go back to James Bartley. He's another abductee who now works in California as a researcher. He had an experience while trying to help a family with an unusual situation. James is aware that young reptilians, children, what have you, look like baby Godzillas when not mature. This family had a young daughter whom they believed was going through the imaginary friend stage. One day, she told her mom that she and her friend were hungry. So the mom who nurtured her daughter, she, really loved her, brought up 2 slices of pizza for her. When she went into the room, she saw her daughter sitting on the floor, as she always was, playing with her toys, and a baby reptoid playing with a toy phone that had letters and numbers on it right next to her. Now, this little toy phone that the little reptilian baby was so interested in, it made different tones when the buttons were pushed and it lit up. And the baby Godzilla loved it. When it saw the mom, who had dropped both plates of food by then on seeing it, the baby reptoid started squealing like a little piglet and ran into the child's closet, disappearing. Ellis Taylor, another abductee. He went on a trip to Australia through Heathrow Airport. And he also, when he landed in Australia, he went to the Sydney shopping center. He said that day he couldn't count the number of reptilians walking around there. The point is that if you are among people who are sensitive enough to see what he was seeing, yes, reptilians who are masking themselves as humans, but also people who already come from reptilian race but were placed in human bodies. This is what he was seeing.
Scientists believe it's highly unlikely that a creature of this size could hide from human discovery indefinitely. So how did this conspiracy theory jump the line into a major belief? Sometimes all it takes is one charismatic believer to get everyone else on board. And the lizard people found their believer in the form of British radio host David Icke. Originally a footballer and sports broadcaster, he soon started expressing theories and using his platform as a radio host to spread them. It was a 1999 book that left the biggest impact. The Biggest Secret would soon become the most in-depth exploration of the lizard people theory ever published, giving these creatures a name. He claimed that they came from a distant star system called Alpha Draconis.
This is what you have to kind of understand if you are sensitive enough to see these things. You are not only seeing the reptilians that are attached to the auric fields of humans, you are seeing actual reptilians who are in control of the illusion of how we live. The reality, we're vibration, we're frequency, we are a projection. So there are reptilians who can manipulate that projection. That's what that's what Ellis Taylor was seeing. And he was also seeing those souls who will go back to their ancestral places, whether it's mantic, reptilian, cat, because there are feline beings as well. So it's such a mixture here that I'm telling you, the Earth is Grand Central Station. So as he was seated on the plane, for some reason they decided to switch his seat. So now sitting across from him on the plane, he saw a beautiful Indian woman in a full sari, intently staring at him, which he didn't mind. He didn't understand why she was so intently staring at him, but he didn't mind. She was very beautiful in his opinion. During that time, he was kind of a little bit disoriented as his seat was switched and this woman was staring at him. A man approached him and literally transformed right before his eyes into the biggest reptilian he had ever seen, and was very aggressive towards him as he walked over to him, staring into his eyes. The attendant quickly walks over to him as he was very scared at this point and gently puts her hand on his knee and tells him he was being looked after. He had nothing to fear. The Indian woman, still looking at him from across the way, also reassured him in his mind, because she was speaking to him telepathically, saying he was a golden child and he would be helped, not to be afraid. Now, he says he only wished he knew what a golden child was. I mean, the only thing I can think of is Eddie Murphy, the golden child. That's the first thing that pops into my head. But apparently that's what they called him. Ellis says that basically he doesn't understand what's going on, but that I don't know if you guys, again, I'm kind of giving away my age here, but if you remember the old series, look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. The old series V, the Star Trek series by Gene Roddenberry, especially the older ones, these have elements of truth to them. They're not just fantasy. And Gene Roddenberry, I didn't know this, he did research on abductees. And as he continued to do research, he became a part of a group it was a UFO group that, as he got to know people, Gene Roddenberry was then directed towards people who knew about the stories of abductees and eventually started sitting in on these regressions that these abductees were going through to remember what happened to them. So Gene Roddenberry got half of his ideas and half of his, just like Star Wars, just like George Lucas, just like E.T., what's his name, Spielberg, they all got their information like this. They are all privy in some way, shape, or form. Remember, they were saying George Lucas had ties to the CIA. So they didn't make their money, through their 100% made up, creativity. It was through this information that they were getting fed either through the government or through, like Gene Roddenberry became a part of a UFO group, which I never knew. That's new information to me. So I really don't have any more information to give you. I always get really a little too excited and I want to just spew it all out. Doesn't help that my camera doesn't cooperate with me. But just to summarize everything and to put this into perspective, I think right now that we're going through phases. Phase one is the introduction of these beings, these reptilians, into mainstream media subconsciously. And like I told you, the 4th of July, that Independence Day, those aliens are real. Okay, to summarize and end this video, I believe we're going through phases. Phase one is the introduction of these beings into mainstream media, which puts it in everyone's subconscious mind. And believe me, we have been subconsciously freaking controlled for a very long time. And if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know exactly how. Phase 2 is control of humanity from the inside out, which is the use of drugs, pandemics, and jabs, if you know what I'm talking about. And phase 3 is take over in the open and order the slave labor to do as they are told. So I'm sorry, but these reptilians are running the show. The 1% are just the puppets that are following their orders and making sure that the slave labor is being fully prepared for what these beings want as eventuality, what they want us to be, what they want this planet to be, and what they want their slave labor to be, because they don't want, when they come down and they're out in the open, they want control over us 100%. So if anybody steps out of line, all they're doing is pressing a button on technology to keep us under control. So I hope this, again, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was clear. I hope this kind of opens your mind. There was no information in this video, so I was floored when I read it. That's why I did a video, because I felt like I needed to share it with you. Please don't forget about my podcast. It's Solar Babies, I can't even speak. Please don't forget about my podcast, Solar Sister, The Power of No will set you free. I've got more information on there that you would definitely be interested in hearing. You don't have to join, just listen to the information, spread it if you can. And yes, until my next videos, make great decisions, and I will see you soon. Mwah.